"You're embarrassing us. Please be quiet." Those words, spoken by my own son in front of a table full of strangers, didn't just silence me. They erased me. The restaurant's ambient noise continued around us, but inside my chest, everything stopped. Let me tell you what led to that moment. My name is Lorraine Bennett, and I've lived in Asheville, North Carolina for all my adult life. 62 years on this earth, and I never thought I'd be sitting alone in my kitchen at 3 in the morning, wondering when exactly I became invisible to my own family. It was supposed to be a celebration. My son, Nathan, and his wife Claire's 10th wedding anniversary. They'd chosen an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind with linen tablecloths and waiters who recite the specials without looking at notes. I wore my navy blue dress, the one I saved for special occasions, with the silver brooch Harold gave me before he died. I spent 40 minutes on my makeup, trying to cover the lines that have deepened around my eyes. "Remember, Mom," Nathan had said on the phone that morning, "Claire's nervous about her family meeting everyone. Try not to talk too much, okay?" I promised I would be discreet. I've always been careful not to overstep. The evening started pleasantly enough. Claire looked beautiful in her cream-colored dress, her blonde hair swept up elegantly. Nathan seemed proud, his hand resting on the small of her back as they greeted guests. I was seated between Claire's college roommate and one of Nathan's colleagues, people who had no interest in speaking to a woman my age. When Claire began telling a story about how Nathan had surprised her with a trip to Paris for their 5th anniversary, I smiled, remembering how excited he had been planning it. He'd called me 3 times that week, asking for advice on restaurants and landmarks. "He's always been thoughtful that way," I said quietly, leaning toward Claire. Even as a little boy, he'd save his allowance for months to buy Christmas presents for others. That's when it happened. Nathan's head snapped toward me, his eyes narrowing. "Mom," he said, his voice carrying across the table. "You're embarrassing us. Please be quiet." The silence that followed felt eternal. Claire stared at her plate. The colleague beside me suddenly became very interested in his water glass. No one spoke up. No one looked at me. I placed my napkin on my lap, smoothing it carefully with trembling fingers. I didn't speak again during dinner. I cut my salmon into tiny pieces, moving them around the plate without eating. When dessert came, I excused myself to the restroom and stood in a stall for 10 minutes, pressing my palms against the cool metal walls until I could breathe normally again. When had I become someone whose voice was unwelcome at her own son's celebration? The drive home that night was a blur. The streets of Asheville, usually so charming with their historic buildings and twinkling lights, seemed cold and indifferent. I parked in my driveway and sat in the car for nearly 30 minutes, unable to summon the energy to go inside. The house felt emptier than usual. It was the same modest 3-bedroom where I'd raised Nathan after Harold died, where birthday parties and science projects and high school graduations had unfolded. Now it echoed with silence. I waited for a call the next day, an apology, an explanation. The phone remained silent. 3 days passed, then a week. I called Nathan twice, but my calls went to voicemail. Finally, on the 8th day, he called. "Mom, I've been meaning to call," he began, his voice distant. "Claire was upset after the dinner." "I only said you were thoughtful," I whispered, my throat tight. "It's not what you said, Mom. You always exaggerate stories. You don't understand the social context. Claire's family is different from ours. They're more reserved." Reserved. The word hung between us. What he meant was educated, wealthy, better. "We just need some space right now," he continued. "Claire's been stressed at work, and we're trying to—" I didn't hear the rest. Space. My son, whom I'd carried inside my body, whom I'd raised alone after a drunk driver took Harold from us when Nathan was only 8, this son needed space from me. "I understand," I said, though I didn't. "Take all the time you need." After we hung up, I walked through my living room, touching the photographs that lined the mantel. Nathan's kindergarten portrait with his front teeth missing, his high school graduation, both of us beaming, his wedding day where I stood slightly apart from the main family grouping. Had I always been on the periphery, even then? I thought about the years after Harold died, how I'd worked as a school secretary during the day and cared for elderly neighbors in the evenings to afford Nathan's private school tuition, how I'd sat up nights helping with homework, driven him to countless baseball practices, attended every parent-teacher conference alone. I never remarried. Nathan was enough. 2 weeks later, I ran into Margaret Whitley at the grocery store. Margaret's daughter had gone to high school with Nathan. "Lorraine, I just saw on Facebook that Claire's having a baby shower next month. You must be over the moon about becoming a grandmother." The carton of eggs I was holding slipped from my fingers, cracking open on the linoleum floor. Yellow yolks spread like small suns at my feet. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "I didn't know." Margaret's face fell. "Oh dear, I thought surely—" Well, maybe it was supposed to be a surprise. It wasn't a surprise. It was a secret. I called Nathan that evening, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. "When were you going to tell me?" I asked when he answered. A heavy sigh on the other end. "We were going to tell you at the right time, Mom. Claire wanted to plan things her way." "How far along is she?" 4 months. 4 months. They'd known for 16 weeks and hadn't told me. "Am I invited to the baby shower?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. The pause lasted too long. "Claire thinks it's better if it's just her friends. You know how these things are." I didn't know. I'd never had a baby shower. When I was pregnant with Nathan, Harold and I had just moved to Asheville. We didn't know anyone. We bought a secondhand crib and painted it ourselves. "I see," I said. "Mom, don't make this a big deal. You'll see the baby plenty after it's born." After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and cried for the first time since the anniversary dinner. Not delicate tears, but ugly, gasping sobs that left my face swollen and my chest aching. Before you continue, if you've ever discovered a painful truth too late, make sure you're subscribed. Here, every story is a mirror of life. 3 months passed without seeing Nathan. He sent occasional text messages, always brief. "Hope you're well. Busy at work?" "Claire's doing fine," I replied with equal brevity, afraid of saying the wrong thing, of being too much. In September, my phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. It was Nathan. "Mom, we need to talk about something," he said, his voice serious. "Claire and I have been looking at houses. Our apartment is too small for the baby, and we found a place we love in Montford. The problem is the down payment." My heart quickened. He was reaching out. He needed me. "How much do you need?" I asked. $23,000, he said. "We'll pay you back, of course, once Claire goes back to work after the baby." I had $28,000 in savings. It was all I had after decades of working, besides my modest pension. It was my security, my future. "I'll transfer it tomorrow," I said. "Thanks, Mom. This means a lot." 2 weeks later, I saw photos on Facebook. Claire standing proudly in front of a beautiful craftsman-style home, her baby bump visible beneath a flowing dress, Nathan beside her, arm around her waist, her parents flanking them, champagne glasses raised. I wasn't invited to see the house. I drove by anyway one afternoon when I knew Nathan would be at work. It was lovely, much nicer than anything I could have afforded when raising him. A wraparound porch with hanging ferns, a manicured lawn. A glimpse through the front windows showed high ceilings and hardwood floors. I didn't stop. I just drove slowly past, like a stranger. In November, Claire gave birth to a baby girl. I learned about it from a text message Nathan sent 3 hours after she was born. Baby arrived, 7 pounds, 6 ounces, both doing well. No name, no photo, no invitation to the hospital. I replied immediately, "Congratulations! What's her name? When can I come see her?" Hours passed before he responded. "We named her Iris. Claire's pretty tired. Maybe wait a few days before visiting." I waited 3 days, then called. No answer. I waited 2 more days and called again. Nathan picked. Up on the 4th ring, "Mom, it's not a good time. Claire's parents are here helping out. We'll let you know when you can visit." "I could help too," I offered. "I could bring meals or do laundry or—" "Claire's mom has it handled. We'll call you soon." 3 weeks after Iris was born, I was finally invited to their home. I bought a silver baby rattle, a soft blanket I'd spent weeks crocheting, and a stuffed elephant. I dressed carefully in a light blue sweater and black slacks, applied lipstick, and drove to their new house with my heart pounding. Claire answered the door with Iris in her arms. She looked tired but beautiful. The baby was tiny and perfect, with a tuft of dark hair like Nathan had as a newborn. "Come in," Claire said, her voice polite but cool. "We can't do a long visit. Iris is on a strict feeding schedule and she needs her nap soon." The living room was immaculate, despite having a newborn in the house. Claire's mother had clearly been helping. There were fresh flowers on the coffee table and the faint smell of something baking in the kitchen. Nathan barely looked up from his phone when I entered. "Hey, Mom," he said, not rising from the couch. "Can I hold her?" I asked, looking at my granddaughter. Claire hesitated, then carefully transferred Iris to my arms. "Support her head," she instructed, as if I'd never held a baby before. I gazed down at Iris, this miracle who carried my blood, Harold's blood. Her tiny fingers curled around my thumb, and I felt a surge of love so powerful it nearly knocked me off my feet. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "She looks like you did, Nathan. Same nose." He glanced up briefly. "Everyone says she looks like Claire's dad." 5 minutes later, Claire announced that Iris needed to be fed. She took the baby from my arms and disappeared upstairs. Nathan followed a moment later, muttering something about helping. I sat alone in their living room for 20 minutes before Nathan returned. "Mom, Claire's pretty wiped out. We should probably wrap this up." I nodded, gathering my purse. "Of course." I left the gifts on the entryway table. "Thanks. We'll open them later." At the door, I turned back. "Maybe next week I could come by and—" "We'll let you know," he cut in. "Claire's parents are staying through the end of the month, and then her sister's coming. It's pretty hectic." I nodded again, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Of course." As I walked to my car, I heard the deadbolt slide into place before I'd even reached the sidewalk. Christmas came. I bought presents for all of them, a cashmere sweater for Nathan, a spa gift certificate for Claire, and a beautiful silver frame for Iris, engraved with her birth date. I called twice to ask about their plans. "We're spending Christmas with Claire's family," Nathan finally told me. "They rented a cabin in the mountains. It's easier with the baby to have everyone in one place." "I understand," I said, though my chest felt hollow. "Could we do something before you go or after?" "We're pretty booked up, Mom. I'll call you after the holidays." I spent Christmas Day alone, eating a frozen pot pie and watching old movies on television. I fell asleep on the couch with Harold's photo clutched in my hand, waking at 3 a.m. with a stiff neck and dried tears on my cheeks. New Year's passed the same way. Then January stretched out, cold and empty. On the 15th of January, my phone rang. It was Claire. "Lorraine," she said, her voice tense but polite. "I hope you're doing well." "I am, thank you," I lied. "How's Iris?" "She's fine. Growing fast." A pause. "Listen, we're in a bit of a situation. Nathan was laid off last week. The company downsized his entire department." "Oh no," I said, genuinely concerned. "Is he okay?" "He's looking for work, but it might take time. The problem is our mortgage. It's substantial. We're wondering if you might be able to help us out again, just until Nathan finds something." My stomach tightened. "Claire, I gave you most of my savings for the down payment." "I know, and we're so grateful, but this is temporary. We can't lose the house, not with Iris." I closed my eyes, picturing my bank balance. $8,000 left. My car needed new tires. The water heater was making strange noises. "I'll see what I can do," I said. Claire's tone warmed immediately. "Thank you, Lorraine. You're a lifesaver." 2 days later, Nathan called. "Mom, did you talk to Claire?" "Yes," I said. "I'm trying to figure out how much I can spare." "What do you mean, how much?" "Mom, we need help with the mortgage. It's $1,500 a month." "Nathan, I don't have that kind of money. I gave you almost everything I had for the down payment." Silence on the line. Then, "So, you're saying no? When we really need help?" "I'm saying I don't have it," I explained, my voice trembling. "I could maybe give you $3,000. That would leave me with emergency funds. 3,000? He scoffed. That barely covers 2 months. What are we supposed to do after that? I don't know, Nathan. I'm trying. You know what? Forget it. I always helped you when you needed it. Now when I need help, you turn your back. The line went dead. I sat at my kitchen table, stunned. When had Nathan ever helped me financially? I'd been the one supporting him through school, helping with his first apartment deposit, contributing to his wedding. But maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. Maybe good mothers gave everything, no matter the cost. I called my bank the next day and arranged to sell my car, a 5-year-old Honda Civic that was paid off. I got $8,000 for it. I kept $1,000 for emergencies and transferred $7,000 to Nathan. He texted back, "Thanks, this helps." 3 weeks later, I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw it. Claire had posted photos of them in Florida. Nathan and Claire on a beach, cocktails in hand. Iris in a tiny sun hat, sitting on a colorful towel. Claire's parents beside them, everyone smiling. The caption read, "Needed this getaway. Thanks to Mom and Dad for the amazing Christmas gift of a Florida vacation. Blessed." They told me they couldn't see me at Christmas because traveling with the baby was too difficult. I stared at the photos for an hour, memorizing every detail. The expensive-looking resort behind them, the matching linen outfits, the carefree smiles. It was then I realized a terrible truth. I wasn't Nathan's mother anymore. I was his bank. The realization didn't come as a dramatic epiphany. It settled over me slowly, like dust on forgotten furniture. I'd become a utility, a resource to be tapped when needed and ignored when not. In March, Claire called again. Her voice was cheerful, animated. "Lorraine, good news! We're planning Iris's christening for next month. It's going to be a beautiful ceremony at St. Mark's, followed by a reception at our house." My heart lifted. Finally, a family event, a chance to be included, to be seen. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "I'd love to help with the preparations." "Oh, that's not necessary. My mother and I have it all planned, but we wanted to make sure you knew the date. April 17th at 11 a.m. "I'll be there," I promised. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself," Claire said, then her voice dropping slightly. "And Lorraine? It's going to be quite formal. St. Mark's is very traditional." The implication was clear. Dress appropriately. Don't embarrass us. "I understand," I said. The day of the christening arrived with perfect spring weather, sunshine filtering through budding trees, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of flowers. I wore a pale green dress with a matching jacket, pearl earrings, and low heels. I'd had my hair styled the day before, and I carried a small gift wrapped in silver paper, a children's Bible with Iris's name embossed on the cover. The church was filled with people I didn't know. Claire's family occupied the front rows on one side. Her parents, her sister and brother-in-law, aunts, uncles, cousins. On the other side sat what appeared to be friends and colleagues. I was directed to sit in the third row, behind 2 couples I'd never met. The ceremony was beautiful. Iris, dressed in a christening gown that Claire later mentioned had been in her family for generations, barely fussed as the minister blessed her. Nathan and Claire stood proudly as godparents were named, Claire's sister and her husband. I hadn't been consulted. At the reception, their house was transformed. Floral arrangements adorned every surface. Catering staff circulated with trays of appetizers and champagne. A photographer captured candid moments of the family. Claire's mother held Iris, showing her off to guests. Claire's father gave a toast, his voice breaking with emotion as he spoke about the joy of being a grandfather. I stood. Near the kitchen, clutching a glass of champagne I hadn't sipped, watching the celebration unfold without me. A woman approached. One of Claire's aunts, I thought. "You must be Nathan's mother," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I'm Patricia, Claire's aunt." "Yes, I'm Lorraine. Lovely to meet you." Such a beautiful christening. Claire's mother did an amazing job planning everything, didn't she? I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, it's lovely." Diane is so involved with Iris. She watches her 3 days a week while Claire works from home. Such a hands-on grandmother. Each word was a small cut. I hadn't been asked to watch Iris. hadn't been invited to be involved at all. That's wonderful, I managed. Patricia lowered her voice conspiratorially. Between us, Claire was worried about the christening. She wanted everything perfect for the photos. You know how these young couples are. Everything has to look Instagram-worthy. I excused myself and walked toward the bathroom, needing a moment alone. As I passed the dining room, I overheard Claire's voice. She was standing with 3 friends near the dessert table, champagne flute in hand. It's exhausting, honestly. Nathan's mother is just difficult. She doesn't understand boundaries. Nathan says she's always been needy. We try to include her, but it's complicated, you know? Needy, difficult. The words echoed in my head like stones dropped in an empty well. Was that how my son saw me? As a burden? As someone to manage? Something shifted inside me then. Not anger, something deeper, more fundamental. A recognition of my own worth, of the decades I'd spent loving, sacrificing, giving. I walked slowly to the center of the living room, where a small table held a microphone for toasts. The official speeches had ended, but people were still mingling, chatting, enjoying the celebration. I picked up the microphone. The feedback caused a few heads to turn. "Hello," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "For those who don't know me, I'm Lorraine Bennett, Nathan's mother." The room gradually quieted. Claire's smile froze. Nathan, across the room, stared at me with wide eyes. "I wanted to say a few words about family," I continued, "about what it means to be a mother, a grandmother." I saw Nathan start to move toward me, but something in my expression stopped him. When my husband Harold died, Nathan was 8 years old. I raised him alone. I worked 2 jobs, as a school secretary during the day and caring for elderly neighbors in the evenings, to provide for him, to send him to the private school he wanted to attend, to make sure he had opportunities I never had. The room was completely silent now. Every eye was on me. I never remarried. I put all my energy, all my love, into being a good mother, into making sure Nathan never felt the absence of his father too keenly. I looked directly at my son. "I gave you everything I had, Nathan. My time, my energy, my savings. When you needed money for your house, I gave you $23,000, almost everything I had. When you lost your job, I sold my car to help with your mortgage." Claire's face had drained of color. Her mother was staring at her with a strange expression. "And in return," I continued, my voice still calm, "I've been called embarrassing, difficult, needy. I've been excluded from your lives, from my granddaughter's life. I learned about Claire's pregnancy from a neighbor. I wasn't invited to the baby shower. I wasn't consulted about Iris's christening or asked to be involved in any way." Nathan had gone pale. He took a step toward me. "Mom," I held up my hand, "I'm not finished." He stopped. "I don't want your pity. I don't even want an apology. What I want is respect. What I want is to be treated like a person who matters, like someone who has value beyond what I can give you financially." I looked around the room at all the strangers who were now witnesses to this moment. I love my son. I love my granddaughter, but I will not be treated as an afterthought in their lives. I will not be hidden away like something shameful, and I will not be used as a convenient source of money when needed and ignored when not. I placed the microphone back on the table. "Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of the celebration." With that, I walked toward the door, back straight, head high. No one tried to stop me. As I reached for the doorknob, I heard Claire's mother say, "Nathan, is what she said true? About the money?" I didn't wait to hear his response. I walked out into the spring sunshine, got into my Uber, I no longer had a car, and went home. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for your dignity? It's the hardest decision a mother can make. The house was quiet when I arrived. I kicked off my shoes, made a cup of tea, and sat on my porch swing, watching the neighborhood children play across the street. Their laughter carried on the breeze, reminding me of Nathan at that age. Carefree, joyful, mine. My phone remained silent that evening, and the next day, and the one after that. On the 4th day, there was a knock at my door. Nathan stood on my porch looking haggard. His eyes were red-rimmed, his shoulders slumped. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside, allowing him into the house where he'd grown up. He walked into the living room and stood awkwardly, as if he'd forgotten how to be in this space. "Mom," he began, then stopped, swallowed, tried again. "Mom, I don't know what to say." "You could start with the truth," I suggested, sitting in my armchair. I didn't offer him a seat. He sank onto the couch anyway, head in his hands. "I didn't realize. I didn't think. That's the problem, Nathan. You didn't think about me at all." He looked up, his face crumpling. "I'm so sorry, Mom. When you said those things at the christening, it was like hearing a stranger. But every word was true, wasn't it? We've been treating you terribly." I didn't respond. I'd said everything I needed to say. "Claire's parents were horrified," he continued. "Her mother asked if we'd really taken your savings, if we'd really excluded you from everything. She said she'd never have monopolized Iris if she'd known you weren't being included." "And Claire?" I asked. Nathan sighed. "Claire's embarrassed, ashamed. She said she got caught up in trying to impress her family, in making everything look perfect. She said she never meant to hurt you. But she did. You both did." "I know." He wiped his eyes. "God, Mom, I don't even recognize myself anymore. When did I become someone who would treat his own mother this way? After everything you did for me?" I watched him, this grown man who was still, somehow, the little boy I'd raised. People become what they allow themselves to become, Nathan, choice by choice, moment by moment. "Can you forgive me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Can we try to fix this?" I considered his question carefully. Forgiveness wasn't the issue. I would always forgive my son, but trust was another matter entirely. "I can forgive you," I said finally, "but rebuilding our relationship will take time, and actions, not just words." He nodded earnestly. "Anything, whatever it takes. First, I want you to pay back the money, not because I need it, but because you need to understand it wasn't a gift. It was a sacrifice." "Of course. We'll start making payments right away." "Second, I want regular time with Iris, not supervised visits where I'm treated like a stranger, but real grandmother time." "Yes, absolutely." "And third," I said, meeting his eyes directly, "I want you to remember who I am, not who you've made me out to be in your mind, some embarrassing, needy old woman, but who I really am. The woman who raised you, who loved you unconditionally, who put you first, always." Nathan slid from the couch onto his knees in front of my chair, taking my hands in his. "I remember, Mom. I swear I do. I just lost sight of it for a while." I squeezed his hands gently. "Then we can try again." The following Saturday, Claire came to my house. She brought Iris, now 5 months old and more alert, her dark eyes taking in everything around her. Claire sat stiffly on my couch, bouncing Iris on her knee. "Nathan told me you two talked." "We did." "I want to apologize," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "What you said at the christening, you were right. We've been terrible to you. I've been terrible to you." "Why?" I asked simply. Claire looked startled by the directness of the question. I don't know. At first, it was just easier to do things with my mom. She's so hands-on, so involved. And then it became a habit, excluding you, and then it became a judgment," I finished for her. "I wasn't good enough, not polished enough, not wealthy enough." She flushed. "That sounds awful when you say it out loud." "It is awful, Claire. It was awful to live through." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. I'm so sorry." Iris began to fuss, and without thinking, Claire handed her to me. I cradled my granddaughter against my chest, inhaling her sweet baby scent, feeling her tiny heart beat against mine. "She looks like you," Claire said softly. "Around the eyes. Nathan doesn't see it, but I do." I smiled down at Iris, who had quieted in my arms. "Harold's eyes. My father-in-law had the same shape." We sat in silence for a moment, the only sound Iris's soft breathing. "I'd like to start over," Claire said eventually. If you'll let me. If you'll let us. I looked at her, this young woman who had caused me so much pain, who was now offering a tentative olive branch. I'd like that too, I said, but this time we do it with honesty, with respect. Yes, she agreed quickly. Absolutely. As Claire was leaving, she paused at the door. Would you like to come for dinner tomorrow? Just the four of us? I'd like that very much. The next evening, Nathan picked me up. My car was still gone, sold to help them. He seemed to realize this as I got into his SUV. We're going to buy your car back, he said suddenly, or get you a new one, better than the Honda. That's not necessary, Nathan. It is, he insisted. It's exactly what's necessary. Dinner was awkward at first. We were all too careful, too polite. But then, Iris knocked over Claire's water glass, sending water cascading into Nathan's lap. He jumped up with a yelp, and suddenly we were all laughing, a real, genuine laugh that broke the tension. After that, conversation flowed more naturally. Claire asked about my work at the school, something she'd never done before. Nathan reminisced about childhood memories, camping trips, and science fair projects. As we ate dessert, Nathan cleared his throat. Mom, there's something else we wanted to talk about. The money. I tensed slightly. What about it? Claire reached for a folder on the sideboard and handed it to me. Inside was a cashier's check for $23,000. We sold some stocks, Nathan explained, and Claire's parents helped a little. It's all there. Everything we took from your savings. I stared at the check. This is unexpected. It's necessary, Claire said, echoing Nathan's earlier words. It's right. I nodded, carefully placing the check back in the folder. Thank you. There's one more thing, Nathan said. He glanced at Claire, who nodded encouragingly. We'd like you to consider moving in with us. I blinked in surprise. Moving in? Not right away, Claire added quickly, but maybe in a few months. We have that in-law suite above the garage. It has its own entrance, kitchenette, everything. You could have your independence but be close to Iris. And to us, Nathan said. If you want. The offer hung in the air between us. 6 months ago, I would have jumped at the chance to be closer to my family. Now, I wasn't so sure. That's a generous offer, I said carefully. Let me think about it. They both nodded, understanding that trust would take time to rebuild. As the weeks passed, small changes appeared. Nathan called every other day just to check in. Claire invited me to lunch, just the two of us. They brought Iris to my house on Sunday afternoons, letting me feed her, bathe her, rock her to sleep. One evening in June, 3 months after the christening, I sat on my porch swing with Iris asleep in my arms. Nathan and Claire had gone for a walk around the neighborhood, giving me time alone with my granddaughter. As I gazed down at Iris's peaceful face, I thought about the journey we'd been on, the pain, the confrontation, the slow healing. Nothing was perfect. There were still awkward moments, still times when old patterns threatened to resurface. But there was progress, real progress. Nathan and Claire returned, walking hand in hand up my driveway. They looked young and hopeful in the golden evening light. "How's our girl?" Claire asked, sitting beside me on the swing. "Perfect," I replied. "She fell asleep right away." Nathan knelt in front of us, gently stroking Iris's cheek with one finger. "Mom, have you thought more about moving in? The suite is almost ready." I had thought about it. For weeks, I'd considered the pros and cons, the potential pitfalls, the hope of a fresh start. "I have," I said, "and I've made a decision." They both looked at me expectantly. "I'm not going to move in with you." Their faces fell slightly. "But," I continued, "I am going to sell my house and buy a small condo in your neighborhood. Close enough to be involved, but with my own space, my own life." Nathan's expression cleared. "That sounds perfect, actually." "It does," Claire agreed. "The Riverside condos are really nice, and they're only 3 blocks from us." I nodded. "I've already looked at one. 2 bedrooms, so Iris can stay over sometimes when she's older." "You've really thought this through," Nathan said, smiling. "I have. This past year has taught me something important, that I matter, that my needs matter, that being a good mother, a good grandmother doesn't mean erasing myself. Claire reached over and squeezed my hand. You more than matter, Lorraine. We need you. Iris needs you. I need you. I squeezed back, feeling something settle inside me, a quiet certainty that we were moving in the right direction. Not perfect, but better, truer. Today, a year after that christening, I live in my condo 3 blocks from Nathan and Claire's house. I have dinner with them twice a week. I watch Iris every Monday and Thursday while Claire works. Nathan and I have breakfast together every Sunday morning, just the 2 of us, a tradition we started to rebuild our relationship. The money they return to me sits in a college fund for Iris. My choice, my keys. Gift. Claire and I aren't best friends, but we're something more important. Family who respect each other, who try to understand each other, who make space for each other's differences. Nathan isn't the perfect son, and I'm certainly not the perfect mother. We still disagree. We still occasionally hurt each other's feelings. But now we talk about it. We apologize. We do better. And Iris? She's walking now, a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. She has Harold's eyes, Nathan's smile, and a spirit entirely her own. When she sees me, she toddles over with arms outstretched, calling Gamma, Gamma. It's the sweetest sound I've ever heard. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about that day at the christening, how terrified I was to speak up, to claim my place, how necessary it was, how it changed everything. I learned that love without respect isn't really love at all, that family isn't just about blood or obligation. It's about seeing each other, truly seeing each other, with all our flaws and gifts. And I learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to say, I am here, I matter, see me. Even when your voice trembles, especially then. If this story touched your heart, please share it. Because sometimes hearing another woman's journey helps us feel less alone in our own.